And on this week's episode of the Outdoorsy Educator podcast, we have Beckie Irvin. Beckie, how are you today?
I'm great, Alasdair. Thank you so much for having me here.
Of course, I'm excited. We've been sort of trying to schedule this for a little while. You're somebody who's been top of my list because a lot of what you are involved in or passionate about is something they are things that I am very interested in too. So I'm excited to sit down and finally have this conversation with you.
Thank you. Me too.
Of course, well, why don't you start off telling our listeners just a little bit about yourself, who you are?
Yeah. My name is Beckie Irvin. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Central Texas in a small town of about 1,200 people. Um, I moved back to Texas 2.5 years ago after a 7 year stint in Northwest Arkansas and working in the outdoor and cycling industries in Bentonville, Arkansas. I was born and raised in Texas. I grew up here where I live now in my hometown of Hico, Texas. Um, and my journey to the outdoors really began with a rural upbringing.
Hmm.
So hunting, fishing, um, were our main activities, and then or I would also say like riding ATVs and four wheelers. And I had a pretty deep connection to the land growing up, but I didn't really know that that was something I had until I moved to West Texas. I went to college at Texas Tech University. Um, and I remember in my first week living in Lubbock, Texas, in the dorms, going to my boyfriend at the time and being like, you have to get me somewhere where I can see the stars because I'm gonna lose it if I don't see them
Right.
soon. Um, I grew up in this super rural area. I could see the Milky Way from my house whenever I wanted.
Wow.
And I didn't realize how like city lights affected your ability to see the stars. And I had no idea that not everyone saw the Milky Way every night.
Right.
Um, and so that was kind of like my first clue that I had some kind of deep connection to land. Um, and then when I'm just giving you the whole story
I
about
love
how I
it.
got into outdoor education. So
Yes.
when I was a freshman at Texas Tech, towards the end of my first year, I was looking for a job.
Hmm.
And I started looking at the rec center because that seemed like a cool place to work. And it just so happened that Texas Tech's outdoor recreation program, um, which happened to be one of the best in the country, I had no idea at the time, was hiring like their next class of employees and trip leaders. And in order to get hired, you had to complete a 14-day backpacking trip in the San Juan Mountains in Colorado. And I
Right.
loved a challenge at that time, and even still today, like I loved doing things that people didn't expect of me. And so I was like, I have to apply to this job. I have to get into this program. I have to go on this trip. And that trip completely changed my life.
I love
I
that.
I have worked in outdoor education, outdoor recreation, and or adjacent to those fields ever since then. That was the spring of 2014 was when I got hired into that program. And that summer was when we took the big backpacking trip. Um, I went on to the University of Arkansas where I got my master's degree in recreation and sport management there. My master's thesis was on women's perceptions of and barriers of entry to the sport of mountain biking. That kind of catapulted me into the cycling industry that was starting to bubble up at the time in Northwest Arkansas. That's when I started Grit Fest. That's when I started All Bikes Welcome. Uh, and now here I am.
Back in your hometown.
Yeah, but
I
that's the
love it.
origin story.
I love it. Well, I've got several questions based off of that. My next door neighbors and another couple, good friends of ours, into mountain biking. So they make it can only be described as a pilgrimage to Northwest Arkansas to Bentonville. I mean, our next door neighbors go at least once a month for
Yeah.
races, competitions. It's somewhere that I'd love to go
Huh?
because I've driven through central Arkansas, sort of west to east many times, going different places, but I've never been to that northwest corner.
Mhm.
And I just keep hearing great things about it. What was your experience like being up there?
It is a phenomenal place. In terms of cycling infrastructure, cycling community, access. I mean, you can literally from downtown Bentonville be on a trail within 2 blocks. And the trails are just woven throughout the entire city and the city north of it and the 3 cities south of it and one city to the east and one city to the west. I mean, it you can mountain bike hundreds of miles just in the Northwest corridor. And that has started to also creep out to like all the rest of Arkansas. I think it's super interesting too how the stakeholders in Arkansas have come together.
Mhm.
During the time that I lived there, the um, legislature, I don't know what it's called when they like create a new office, but they created the Office of Outdoor Recreation.
Right.
And that was like a huge milestone and just what recreation meant for the state's economy. And so it was an exceptional place to live. And then in terms of like art, music, aviation, entrepreneurship. There is so many resources being poured into all of these avenues. Hospitality, um, and everything also has some sort of like bike element interwoven into it. And so you'll go to dinner and there's just like 20 bikes outside of a restaurant. It
Right.
is it is unlike any place I've ever been, just in terms of like ease of accessibility. Um, and of course, with any place, there's always going to be like accessibility challenges that get
Of
overlooked. And
course.
but I think the region is also doing a really good job of responding to that. So, for example, like affordable housing.
Right.
When this place exploded and all these people moved in and it became really cool all of a sudden, affordable housing became really difficult to find. But I'm seeing people in that region be extremely proactive about trying to like regain ground in affordable housing, um, and come up with solutions so that it doesn't just get worse and worse like we've seen in places like ski towns in Colorado. And so I
Absolutely.
really admire like all the people there for the work that they're doing and feel really blessed to have called it home for the 7 years that I did.
I find that fascinating. Oddly, that's something my neighbors have brought up. Because I joke with them, are you going to move up there at some point? And they're like, we couldn't afford to now.
Right,
Maybe
right.
15 years ago we could have, but
Yep.
the secret's out, is what
Yes.
they say, and now everyone's there. Now, one thing that I thought about when I knew, we'd arranged a time, and then I looked at your website and found out about All Bikes Welcome. I'm going to lean into a stereotype here, but there is something to back it up. I've had read that there was some pushback to traditionally marginalized communities
Huh?
in Arkansas, and that spilled over into the Northwest Arkansas area, the biking world. There was, I think it was a painted sign that was something that had, okay, you're nodding your head like I think you know what I'm
Yes.
talking about, and it just caused controversy. I didn't read what happened in the end, but I
Yep.
was curious as to you are clearly somebody who is an advocate for all and wants everybody who wants to be involved, regardless of race, gender, orientation, all these things. You clearly want them on two wheels if they want to be. How how did you navigate that while you were up there? Was it a challenge or was it not?
For a long time, so I started All Bikes Welcome back. I mean, the idea bubbled up in 2018, and along with my co-founder, we took it public and started creating in 2019. So honestly, for a while, we kind of flew under the radar. Like people said things about us behind our back. and it always made its way back to me. But
It's funny how
uh,
that happens.
yeah,
Yes.
but no one was like at a systemic level trying to like stop us from doing anything. Um, we at the time when we started this mountain biking festival, we wanted the ethos of it to be like an amazing place to learn to mountain bike, which meant for us that it needed to be extremely inclusive. And this was in 2019.
Hmm.
Like I was seeing a lot of conversations popping up about this in the rock climbing community, but not yet in the cycling community. And so I was learning a lot from what was going on over there. My co-founder and I were doing our best. We certainly did not do it perfectly, but trying to create this inclusive space. Um, and so from the get-go, like trans women were openly welcome and affirmed at GritFest. Um, and that, again, it really just flew under the radar for
Good.
several years. Um, then I would say late 2020 through like 2022. I mean, the cycling industry just like exploded in
Hmm.
terms of its understanding of inclusivity and access and barriers of entry to the sport. And so All Bikes Welcome, under the leadership of our new executive director, Rachel Ulser, really became this like role model in the industry for what it looks like to uphold inclusivity um, on every front for multiple different historically marginalized communities and people with intersectional identities. So people who might hold more than one marginalized identity experience significantly greater barriers of entry to a sport such as mountain biking. So,
Right.
um, I really I started to step out of leadership from All Bikes Welcome in 2022. And that was when at the beginning of 2022 we hired Dr. Rachel Olzer, and Rachel built such an incredible community of advocates within All Bikes Welcome that I think it was it was a movement.
Right.
And
I
we
love
were
it.
able to manage this conflict and come through it because there was like a movement of humans behind it. Um, and the so the mural incident, I'm not going to get into it because it's so nuanced and so detailed. If anyone's
Right.
curious, there's like tons of press articles about it. Look up All Bikers Welcome mural, Bentonville, Arkansas. Um, All Bikes Welcome has like, I don't know if it's still published, but they had a statement on their website for like the several months that this took place. That was the timeline of events and exactly everything that happened. Um, anyways, that was an All Bikes Welcome mural.
I
So
didn't realize that. I just knew it
yes,
was going to be in your no pun intended wheelhouse. You would
yes,
know about it. I didn't realize that. That's so
yes.
interesting.
Yeah. And I was already living back in Texas. And so I did a lot of support work on the back end. Um, I'm typically like pretty good at writing, but in terms of like setting the strategy and what we're going to do and how we're going to approach these situations, Dr. Rachel Olzer leads that. And again, like she had just this incredible community around them to support this movement. And so it really, working with All Bikes Welcome has opened my eyes to the importance of community building and mutual aid and community support efforts and communication within communities. And I feel really lucky to have gotten to watch people like Dr. Olzer who understand it so deeply lead that for All Bikes Welcome.
And where does it stand today? All bikes welcome. How is it as we approach 2026?
Yeah. So All Bikes Welcome is a 501c nonprofit, 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Northwest Arkansas. Um, Our keystone event is a 3-day mountain biking festival that takes place at the end of September in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And the organization is on a mission to build more equity and belonging in cycling in the outdoors by providing free and low-cost programming in Northwest Arkansas. Everything we do is in Northwest Arkansas, but people from all over the globe have traveled to attend either Grit Fest or do one of our programs. Um, we are going through a period of transition right now. We're actually hiring an executive director
All right.
actively. Applications are open right now. And so it's super exciting. I think like Rachel and their team have done such an incredible job, and also the board of directors of setting up a sustainable nonprofit that can live on. Um, and I'm excited to continue supporting them. I work as a fractional development director for them. So primarily I do the fundraising.
I love it. It's speaking to my heart a little bit. Biking has never been on my radar at all. I've always found it like frustrating. I'm a bigger guy, but whatever weight I've been, it's just been something that I've found difficult, even though I really wanted to love biking. Always loved it. I've owned a couple of bicycles, but then going up in hills, I find it frustrating. I get out of breath and I get all mad at myself. I'm
Yep.
not built, I wasn't built for that. I can go hiking 20 miles a day for 5 days and do 100 miles, no problem.
Yep.
But asked me to run a quarter mile or to cycle far, I was out. And I
Yeah.
hated it because I always wanted to be on a bicycle. Well, this August I purchased an e-bike and it's been an absolute game changer.
Amazing.
And it's like I'm all sad today because it's raining
Yeah.
and I'd like to go out on my bike.
Yeah.
I live 3 miles from where I work. I work in the office a few days a week, and I've driven once since August when I got
Oh,
my bike, and
that's amazing.
it's like I love it.
Yeah.
But even there are times though I will see we have in the town I live in, there's quite an active cycling community, and I will see them flying by, and I'm intimidated and I am, a straight, white, about as cisgendered waspy as you can get, to
Right.
look at. So I can
Right.
only imagine how difficult it must be for the trans community.
Right.
I'm sure you know about All Bodies on Bikes, that the
Yeah.
organization, people who I'm so glad organizations like yours and theirs exist. Because if I feel intimidated and wary of these people flying by in a blur and their lycra and this and that, I can only imagine what people, um, you know, a little farther away from the stereotypical cyclist, man or woman, might feel like. So I'm just so grateful. I'm so thankful that you exist. And now I'm dipping my
Thank
toes back
you.
into the cycling community. It's so exciting. Like all I want to do
That's
is get on my
awesome.
bike. So thank you for providing these opportunities for so many. I'm sure I don't think it's overstating it if I say it's life-changing for some to find their people.
Yeah,
It's all about finding
totally.
your people.
Yeah, belonging, right?
Belonging. It's what we all want, right? Whatever walk of life we're in, we want to know that we belong somewhere.
100%.
Um, And we'll kind of transition from that into something that I'm, very excited about.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the XTX Trail that you're involved in.
Yep. So the X Texas Trail is going to be a trail that connects the Piney Woods in East Texas to the Trans-Pecos Mountains in West Texas. It at this time there is a drafted route that uses public right-of-ways, the roadsides, gravel roads, and then some national and state park managed roads. Um, we are soft launching this route in January of 2026, and then it is going to be a living, evolving route from there. Um, the model for the X-Tex is the Arizona Trail, the Colorado Trail, these other long distance through hikes in the United States the Appalachian Trail, obviously, Continental Divide Trail, and the Pacific Crest Trail are multi-state trails that you can do as
Hmm.
well. Um, and within the hiking community, there's, um, and I'm sure that you can attest to this as well, there's an understanding that a long distance hike is transformational,
Hmm.
physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally transformational. You do not come away from that experience the same person that you were. Um,
Absolutely.
for that reason alone, what we're building is super exciting. Um, and then on top of that, there's like, we are going to get to share the culture of Texas. People are going to get to see how diverse the ecoregions of Texas are. We are going to be able to impact like economic development in rural areas of Texas. This trail has so much positive opportunity for the state, and I am thrilled, honored, humbled to be working right now as the acting executive director of this project. It is incredible.
Yeah, it just, I know a little about it. I've listened to a couple of podcasts, read, and all I want to do is find out more.
Yeah,
Because in my head, in 5 years' time, maybe 10 years, I don't know, it seems like it really could become the winter long distance hiking trail.
yeah,
The AT will be snowed out as the CD, all these ones that run north to south.
right.
You can't, you've got a very small window. And I'm sure you guys have looked into this, of course you have, but I mean, it's really going to be a 12-month a year trail, I would assume. I mean, it's going to be very hot in the summer, but it won't be impassable um, for any long lengths of time, I would assume. Am I right or am I wrong in that kind of thinking?
I think that at this time, the West Texas section is
Hmm.
too hot for the
Okay,
summer, and
right.
potentially even the Central Texas too. Um, it and at this time, like water and shelter are so far apart in West Texas, and you would need
Okay,
so much water
right.
to do a long day in West Texas that I don't think it's going to be a summer trail. But it does have the potential to be like a three-season trail. So fall, winter, spring. The exception, and let me back up a little bit here for folks who aren't aware, like the Arizona Trail, um, crosses through a lot of private property. And that private property links up publicly managed land. And that is how they created the Arizona Trail. We're looking to do the same thing here in Texas. It's going to take us years, likely at least a decade, to really get a significant portion of the trail moved off of roadsides and onto private property. Um, because I'm talking about like hundreds of miles here, right?
Right.
Um, and so, where was I going with that? Oh, we have this unique challenge of private properties and hunting seasons in Texas.
Hmm.
Hunting is a huge economic driver to the state. It's one of the largest economic drivers in our outdoor recreation economy that we have here. And so that's going to be a little challenge. Not exactly sure what it's going to look like if we'll have to well, I shouldn't get too far into it, but that is like one challenge we're going to have to manage in terms
Right.
of what seasons can people do the entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a hunter. Just didn't grow, I grew up in a much more urban environment. I mean, nothing morally against it being done right or anything. It's just I grew up in the
Yeah.
city. Um, but I just happened to read the other day an article about the amount of money brought in from outdoor activities in general, and I couldn't quite believe that hunting was up there with boating and RVing. It was like those were
Yes.
the big ones. I think it's just because of quite exactly where I live, there's a lot of lakes around. So, I mean, every Friday you just see cars dragging boats up to the lake and big RVs everywhere. So hunting isn't necessarily on my radar. Now, I did through
Yeah.
hike the Lone Star Trail couple of years ago. And you had to, those windows where if you're on the trail, you have to wear bright orange,
Right.
things like that, so I had to look at exactly when to go and make sure I'm following the hunting rules. And I got off the trail literally just a couple of 100 feet off one bit of the trail was a road. Save you the whole boring story. But met a sheriff. He pulled up. He saw me with my backpack and asked where I was going, and he was quite upset with me because he assumed I was hunting, and it wasn't hunting
Mm.
season. And I was like, no, no, like do what you need to do. I've got no guns, no blah, blah. I'm not
Yeah.
hunting. He really didn't believe there was a hiking trail there, and he ended up telling me he grew up in the area. Like he just had no idea because
Interesting.
hunting is kind of life
Yeah.
in those parts,
Yeah.
and through hiking isn't really on the radar.
Right.
So there was an assumption made. We laughed about it in the end. He drove me 5 miles to the campsite. Nicest guy.
Yeah.
But it was quite funny, that sort of initial you have to be hunting if you're out here.
Right, right, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
assumption being so deeply ingrained.
Now, and has there been much contact with the private landowner in general at this point? Has it been well received, or is it skeptical, or are you not at that stage yet?
I would say, I mean, so the landowners that we've talked to so far are very enthusiastic. Um,
Wonderful.
but if you look at a parcel map of
Mhm.
like landowners along the X-Tex, it's thousands. And so,
Right.
I am super excited and honored. And bringing enthusiastic landowners on board in the early stages is critical. But I'm not so naive to think that we won't also find people that are like really skeptical, and then also people that are like, absolutely not, please leave me alone. And I respect that. Um, but yeah, so we'll see. I mean, at this time, I would say all stakeholders have been extremely enthusiastic and supportive. Um, and it's how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Right.
Same thing. You can only talk to one landowner at a time, at least meaningfully.
Of
And so,
course.
yeah,
Yeah, because I'm sitting here thinking about it, and three thoughts sort of come to mind, and all seem very plausible. You could have somebody come back to you and say, absolutely not. I moved out into the middle of nowhere for a reason.
right.
Respectfully, I don't like people. I don't see
Yep,
people. It's not for me. I could see, people just saying, absolutely, the more people, the better. I want people to see what a lovely place this is. Hey, build a trail through the back of my property. Go for it. And then there's probably an economic motivation for some. Like I
yep,
imagine if I had a large property and the trail went through the back of mine, I might think, you know what? I could house these people for $20 a night, feed them breakfast. That might be a little money
yep,
maker
yep.
if I'm managing a lot of land. So that I could see all sorts of feedback coming your way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're having a lot of those conversations. It's
Hmm.
exciting. Like,
Hmm.
there are a lot of legacy landowners in Texas, like people who their families have been stewarding these properties for generations, and they're excited. They're excited to share the history. They're excited to share the culture of the place that they call home. They're excited to facilitate an opportunity for people to reconnect with nature. Like, there's so many reasons people are supporting the X-Tex, and it's really an honor to be working with them on this.
I love that. And long may it continue. I'll ask you at the end, but just in case I forget, I'd love to share a link, for you to tell people where they can find out more about the XTX Trail. Because
Totally.
yeah, in my head, and I try not to get too excited about these things, it could be huge. Like
Yeah,
it could be up there with the Colorado Trail, the Arizona, somewhere,
absolutely.
somewhere like that is on people's radar to do.
Yep.
It's a part of the country not known for long distance through hiking. And I don't know. I find
Yeah.
the whole premise of this very exciting.
It's
Uh,
super exciting. And it's really encouraging to hear how excited you are about it. And you see the vision. Like,
mhm.
it could be huge. And I would say if people are interested, we have a bi-weekly newsletter and
Okay.
we have so much going on right now. There are updates in that newsletter. It comes out every other week. You can sign up for it on our website. We also have opportunities for people to volunteer. All of those opportunities are outlined on our website and are only going to continue to grow. Um, and then not surprisingly, we need financial support as well.
Hmm.
Um, Giving Tuesday is coming up. Well, this podcast might come out after that, but uh,
We'll just
we,
give on the next Tuesday. It's fine.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right? Any Tuesday will do. Yeah.
Any Tuesday would be awesome.
Right. I love that. Um, as we kind of round the bend here to the home stretch, there's three questions I would like to ask you.
Okay.
And no pressure, no stress, the first things that come to mind. Um, you've had quite a diverse background, so I'd love to know what and how success has changed its definition for you, if it has, or what does success look like for you?
I really appreciate this question. I'm going through a very dynamic and intentional mindset shift around this. Um, I'm 31 years old. I spent my teens and my 20s very focused on academic and career success. Um, just almost laser focused. And
Hmm.
to the point that in 2022 and spilling into 2023, I experienced severe burnout that came with health complications. I wasn't sleeping. I was sick all the time. Um, Chronic headaches, chronic cough, um, and just feeling groggy and fatigued nonstop. Um, and I wish I could go back and tell my 20-year-old self, or the version of me in my 20s, that I was doing more than enough. I was
Absolutely.
doing probably like three, four times as much as I needed to be doing.
Right.
Um, and I try not to regret it because it's also why I can do some of the jobs that I do currently at only 31 years old. But uh, I think I could have enjoyed my 20s a little bit more instead of being just like so strung out and having such a frazzled nervous system. Um, Even despite like doing outdoor activities almost constantly. And so my definition of success now is like, did I get a good night's sleep? Do I feel peaceful and fulfilled in my heart? And do I love being alive?
Nobody has ever said that on this podcast before, and I think that's beautifully phrased and so important for all of us.
It has been so transformational. And it has taken me 3 years of deep work with therapists, life coaches, um, journaling, meditation, lots of really, really long walks to get to this place. And what's so crazy to me is that, like, now that this is the definition of success that I'm embodying, work, focus, energy, motivation, discipline, like all of these things that I need to achieve things in my career just flow out of me so much easier.
I absolutely love it. And congratulations. That is not an easy journey to, and I know it's not finished. Is it ever finished?
Right,
But
right.
to come as far as you have is a huge achievement. So well
Thank
done.
you.
That's fantastic.
Thank
And
you.
and I think there's such a trend in what you're saying. You know, I think of a sort of linear path at one end being corporate success and the
Mhm.
car and the house and the this and the that and the ladder, and then nature being at the other end. And it really is a one-way street to happiness. You never see people coming the other way.
Yeah,
Everyone's flowing that one direction, whether it's in their 20s or their 80s. At
I
some
love
point,
that.
people
Yes.
go, I need more of that. It's not more of that. So I'm pointing and we're on a podcast. But you know what I mean? It's
Yep.
never people going, nah, too much nature. I need more
Right.
corporate ladder in my life.
Yes. Yeah.
So even though you've mentioned, what could you have done differently in your 20s, it seems to me like you got on the path a lot earlier than many others. So you have a lot of life to live,
Thank
go
you.
in the right direction. That's super exciting. My
Thank you. Thank you.
second question for you is I'd love for you to think about, it could be one or two parts, a book and or piece of music that's been particularly influential in your life.
I love this question. Um, okay. When I feel like this is kind of an obvious answer, but like as a 19-year-old, I read Wild by Cheryl Strayed.
One of my favorite books of all time.
Changed my life, and just further cemented that I was like on the right path. Um, that was super inspiring. I have thought about like rereading it now that I'm in my 30s just to see like how I would internalize her experiences differently. Um, there is a short book called, oh my gosh, Canyon Solitude. And it is written by a woman. Her first name, I want to say, is Patricia. It's also been about 10 years since I read it, and I read it multiple times. Um, Another one, I think I was 21 when I read it, and it is the story of a woman who becomes a raft guide, I think either in her like mid 30s or 40s, and then she takes a solo trip in her raft down the Grand Canyon. Incredible book. Um,
Okay.
Her reflections on connection to nature, connection to sport, it was just beautiful. And it was a very empowering read in my early 20s. Um, I would say recently, the best book I read in 2025, I love to read, which is why you're getting a
Right.
whole list of books
This
instead of
is
just one.
wonderful. I love it. Bring them all on. Yeah.
The best book I read this year was The River's Daughter by Bridget Crocker. It is like it was like the feeling when I first read Wild by Cheryl. Um,
Right.
and I it's also about like a lot of her re like dating and romantic relationships
Hmm.
in for her it was like the raft guiding community, and I saw a lot of parallels to myself in terms of like dating and romantic relationships in the cycling industry and in the outdoor industry in general, and how we sometimes like use these sports to mask or avoid like deeper inner emotional turmoil.
Hmm.
And I am not kidding you. When it got to the epilogue of this book, it was like tears, like like a wave of tears and emotion washing over me. It was so good. And that's not even to mention just like her amazing descriptions of the rivers that she's run. If
Right.
you're a water person, this book is absolutely incredible.
All right. The River's Daughter is on my list. It's
Yes,
it's here. I
amazing.
love it. And then what about a piece of music? Is there any kind of music that takes you somewhere, has a particular meaning or importance to you?
I love music. I always buy the iPhone with the most storage because I need my entire Spotify library downloaded. I can't go anywhere without my 4,500 songs.
Yep.
Um, and oh my goodness. I don't know if I can pick just like one, But I I mean, Spotify came out when I was in high school still. So I've been
Right,
making playlists as long as I've been adventuring, even longer.
right.
And I still have like my college playlist. So I had a playlist that I would listen to every time we traveled to the mountains, and I had a
Right.
playlist that I would listen to every time we traveled to the desert. Um, and then just over the years, like during my time in Arkansas, I have several playlists that are associated with like being out in the Ozarks and adventuring out there. Um, and then I spend a lot of time in New Mexico, specifically northern New Mexico. I feel like a very deep connection to the land out there. And it, they all kind of have like a little, like a slightly different flair. And then I also have I have my Texas music. There's like
Right.
Texas Red Dirt Country, there's radio country, there's alt country, and I consume music nonstop. And it's all connected to place for me.
I love that. For me, it's yeah, but connection to place, but to points in my life, which I'm sure
Yes.
those things are intertwined.
Yeah,
A song will come on I haven't heard in years, and it immediately takes
takes
me
you back.
to that place, that time,
Hmm.
sometimes that feeling. Now I'm going to throw an idea your direction, no pressure,
Yes.
but I consider myself an average reader. Like I read probably, and I wish I'd read more, and it's actually something I've started doing in the last few weeks, is carving
Amazing.
out, even if it's just 15 minutes a day. I'm working my way through a fascinating book.
Yeah.
Wild, I read probably 6 or 7 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and it's the last book, and I've read books I've enjoyed since being at work during the day going, I just cannot wait to get home and
Yes.
pick up this book.
Yep.
And it's one of the few times in my life that is really, I've had that feeling of, I can't stop thinking about what might happen next in this book.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think about if, God forbid, there was ever a fire in my house, what things would I grab? I have a signed copy of Wild by Cheryl Strayed. That
Oh
might
my
be one
gosh.
of the things. If a book has had an impact on my life, I do whatever I can to try and get a signed copy. That'll be
That's so
something I
cool.
pass along to my kids, and they'll probably throw it in a box in the attic, and that'll be that. But
Right. Of
you
course.
know, but that's something I try and do. Well, I'm going to throw out the idea of a virtual rereading of Wild as a book club. If you're on board, I'm in.
That could be super interesting
It
and
could
really
be.
fun. It is, I need to reread it.
Yeah, I need to as
Um,
well.
it's it's not overhyped. That is a
Right.
fabulous book.
Right. And it was one of those ones I've seen the movie. The movie is always a drop off from the book.
Yep.
The movie was to me was good, but the book's just untouchable.
Yes. That's
It's
a great way to put it.
just so good.
Yep.
My last question for you will be, I need you to transport yourself into the future. The XTX Trail is complete. It's
Yep.
finished. You're hiking along it. Who would you like to hike for a day with? And it could be somebody in your life, past, present, somebody famous, not famous, somebody you've met, somebody you haven't met. It could be any human being. Who would you like to hike 10 miles with on the X-Tex Trail? And I always like a disclaimer, significant others are not included, so nobody gets in
Okay.
trouble. Right.
Oh, oh my goodness. There's like so many authors and artists.
Yeah, a friend of mine chose Prince a few weeks ago because he just had so
That's
many
amazing.
questions. Yeah.
Gosh, okay. Another author that I love who I forgot to mention is Pam Houston.
Okay.
Um, she I also love writing like personal nonfiction and, playing around with like travel writing. And that is like her forte. She teaches it. So maybe Pam Houston, her book, Cowboys Are My Weakness, is also another one. Especially if you date men. If you date outdoorsy men, you have to read Cowboys Are My Weakness. It's such a good book. Um, so yeah, she comes to mind.
I love it. And that's what I liked is who comes to mind. This isn't a deep question.
Yeah.
It's just who pops into your head that you would love to have these conversations with. So to me, that sounds like a perfect answer. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, Becky Irvin, it's been an absolute pleasure. I cannot
Thank
thank you enough for
you.
joining us today.
Thank you for the invite. This was wonderful.
Of course.